Watch out when a business broker says, I've been doing this for X years, and because what they're about to say is probably not going to be true. So here's some things that we hear come after that sentence all the time that we know are not true. One, they say that information usually isn't released until after an LOI is signed. And that is just false. It's not reasonable for them to expect an offer without giving us some information to review first so that we can make an educated decision on one, whether we want to own it or not, and two, what we want to pay for it, and three, how we need to structure the deal. And we hear this all the time. We push back really hard. I don't think it's fair to the sellers when brokers do that, because then the offers that they get aren't real offers. So they get their hopes up. Somebody offered me $3 million for my business. I'm so excited. But then after they review the info, they realize it's only worth $1 million, and they lower their offer to $1 million. Then they try to go to someone else who offered 2.5, and then that person lowers their offer to $1 million. They got their hopes up on that higher price, and then once the actual information is released, that price comes down. I feel like that's a terrible experience for the sellers. I feel really bad for sellers that work with brokers that do that. Now, every once in a while we get a broker that just doesn't respond to our pushback, and then unfortunately, if it's something that's really a great fit, then we do make that offer, and then we have to adjust after. It's really, they forced our hands. So for us, it's not a big deal from the buy side. The LOIs are completely non-binding, so there's no harm in making the offer. I feel like the seller is the biggest victim in that. Second thing they say is you're gonna need X down payment, 10, 15, 20% down payment, or $1 million net worth to buy this business. So from our experience, maybe less than 1% of the brokers that we talk to really understand the lending market and what the down payment requirements are. They may know the requirements of the one bank that they work with or the bank that they send their deals to, but they don't work with lots of banks. So that's what we do. We work with lots of banks, so we typically know what the criteria is bank by bank. So we can figure out how to get a deal done for our clients that way. Because the truth is there are banks out there that require high down payments or high net worth requirements. But there are also a lot of banks out there that don't. From an SBA perspective, the required down payment is 0, but each bank has their own discretion. Generally, what we find is 0% down is only for individuals buying a business that they currently work for. You can do 2.5% down if you're buying a business in an industry that you have worked in for at least 2 years, and 5% down for just about everything else. But if they do say that you need a high down payment or a high net worth requirement, ask them why they think so. It may be true if you have a franchise in play or really prime located real estate, because the SBA is easy. Getting the loan is easy through the banks that provide the SBA loans. But landlords can be hard because the bank has a government guarantee, the landlord doesn't. The same with the franchise. They want to make sure that you have liquidity that you can keep the business going. So they might be saying that because of a landlord or franchise requirement. So if you do get that from them, just ask why they think you need so much down. And of course, if you can just tell by the listing that it's not a prime located retail location and it's not a franchise, then neither of those apply. Third time this can come up is, of course, negotiating the upfront money that you're going to put along with the LOI. Typically, when we write an LOI, we say that the buyer is going to put $5,000 into an escrow account out of good faith. Brokers will ask for things like $50,000, $100,000, and that's just crazy. They act like that's normal. It's like you may do that, and that may be normal in your deals, but that's not normal across the industry. I'd say 95% of what we do, we just put $5,000 down. Every once in a while, it gets negotiated to put more. I really want to see a change here. I feel like the sellers should be putting money into these too. On the buy side, we start spending money right away on legal and investing in the deal, and the seller really has nothing in it. I think that that's probably something that needs to change, but changing something that's existed in an industry for a long time isn't easy to do overnight. And then lastly, this comes up a lot during the negotiations of the purchase agreement. We run into it a lot with like holdback funds, which are pretty common. So that's just money that gets set aside for, say, 60 or 90 days, that if something isn't right with the deal, that can come in to remedy it. Basically money that if the seller does what they say they're going to do when they say they're going to do it, they get the money within 90 days. And if they don't, then some of it gets held back. You get a lot of pushback in negotiating that part of the deal as well. So what have you heard out there from sell-side brokers that just isn't true?